Hello YouTube, today we have possibly the most anticipated super wide lenses this year, the Tamron 15 to 30 f/2.8 VC lens, meaning vibration compensation lens. And on the other hand, we also have the Nikon 14 to 24 mm f/2, which many people, actually most of the people, consider as the most favorite reference lens for all super wide lenses out there. It's so popular that it's been said that non-Nikon users actually try to use adapters to be able to use this baby. It's absolutely sharp edge to edge, also gives you great range from 14 to 24, and it's also part of Nikon's Holy Trinity lenses. So we're gonna see how this guy, the 1530 mm f/2.8 from Tamron, fares against the 1424 mm in various aspects, but we're gonna consider more or we're going to concentrate rather more on the 15 to 30 mm here. And there are new features that this lens brings, mainly the VC feature, the vibration compensation. It's an image stabilization technique that the 1424 or even the Canon 16 to 35 they do not have. Now many people argue that you probably do not need any image stabilization technique while using a super wide lenses. So you're going to just find out when you actually the VC feature is just a good to have feature, it's a bonus marketing feature, or it's actually a must have, or it enhances your shooting experience beyond the obvious. And most of all, this is not a cheap lens. It costs just under 80,000 in India and about 1200 US dollars. So we also need to find out whether this lens actually deserves your time and money, and whether you should actually consider this lens over the 1424 or the other lenses if you're a non-Nikon user. Let's say for example the Canon. Now Canon have come up with a 11 to 24 mm lens recently. So this guy has a lot of shoes to fill in. So let's get started. Yeah. First, we're gonna keep both of these side by side, and you'll see at the first look that the 1424 is actually quite smaller significantly than the 1530 mm here. Mainly because this guy has more elements, more glass elements. It's also a bulkier, maybe because the stabilization feature is also built in, and it's overall a fuller lens than the 14 to 24. I would say the 14 to 24 is much better to hold because it's sharper curves here, so it's better to hold like this than the 15 to 30. And this also weighs about 100 grams more than the 1 kilo 14 to 24. And when you open this, also you will see the difference on the front as well. You can see the 1530 is actually much wider, and even the bulb, I see the bulb on the Nikon is slightly bigger, mainly because of that extra 1 mm, that 14 mm compared to the 15 mm. But overall, the 15 to 30 mm actually feels significantly heavier than the Nikon 14 to 24 mm here. It also surprisingly feels better built than the 14 to 24 mm here. Now remember that the 14 to 24 mm actually has been long in existence, so some of the build qualities and some of the techniques might be older than the Tamron out here. But where the advantage the 1424 has is that extra 1 mm. So this guy gives about 114 field of view compared to about 110 of the Tamron 15 to 30. Now we're going to see all that, the difference, what difference, one field of view difference it gives at 14 mm, how much you're losing with the 15 mm here, and how much the 15 mm of the Nikon and the Tamron compares. But now I'm just going to keep the Nikon aside here, also the caps. By the way, you can see because it's a super wide lens, it won't take any filters, and even the cap is like a push-on cap here, similar to the case on the back. They're very good quality, and it's rugged. It's also weather seal. It's metal here, yeah. And that's the zoom ring, and that's the focus ring. And these rubbers, they're not sticky, and they also have extremely good grip. So very premium build, and you can see 15 to 30 all the way, and they also have See, it's making noise, so it's not exactly smooth. So you actually can go from here to here or any place. It won't slip the focal range or the focal length that easily. Yeah. And then you have your AF and MF button here and the vibration compensation on or off. And you also have the focal distance there, the focal index point. It's VC lens. It also has an ultrasonic silent drive. That means like the AFS we have on the 1424, the autofocus motor is more silent than usual. Those are the contact points. So that's about the construction of the lens. It's very, very well built. Yeah, so now that you know the construction quality and all of this lens and the features that it's bringing, let's talk about the performance of the 15 to 30 mm out here. Let's start with the focus speed and accuracy. Well, we tested that from both extremes of the focusing distances. We also set the aperture at f/2.8 for most stress on the lens. The lens could lock on focus without problem in less than a second from minimum focal distance end, but hunted once from infinity. The accuracy, however, was spot on. Then we tested focus shifting in movie mode, where we had our camera set in full-time focus tracking mode with normal area mode selected, because we were shifting the focus from the background onto a very small toy. The lens could focus on the toy relatively slower than we would have liked, but that's majorly to be blamed on the Nikon system we were using, which has a terrible contrast detection autofocus, like full-time autofocus performance. I'm sure the same lens on a Canon body like the 70D or the 7D Mark II or even the Sony SLT systems would focus much faster. The focus, however, was more accurate when we had enough light on the small subject. Basically, availability of light has a significant impact on the focus accuracy of the lens on a Nikon body at least, but not so much on the focus speed. The lens is absolutely blade sharp in the center. The sharpest point I found is slightly right of the dead center. The sharpness expectedly reduces towards the corner, but still are quite sharp. I found the left side to be slightly sharper than the right. Feel free to download the original copies of Flickr that I'll give the link. There are obvious distortions at the corners. There are also noticeable keystoning. We did not notice much barrel though, and in noticing keystoning is a little strange at 30 mm, but the 1530 mm shows slightly more keystoning than the Nikon 1424 mm at 15 mm. At 15 mm f/2.8, the Tamron shows noticeable vignetting, but it gets better at 5.6 and almost gone by 8. The 30 mm, however, is worse at 2.8. The good thing is though that the vignetting disappears faster at this focal length. You'll see almost same vignetting at 15 mm f/8 and 30 mm f/5.6. There's more vignetting on the 1424 mm at both 14 mm and 15 mm f/2.8 compared to the Tamron's same focal length and aperture combination. The same was true when we tested 24 mm ends of both the lens though. As far as chromatic aberration is concerned, there is purple fringing at both 15 mm and 30 mm ends. However, the 30 mm is much less. In general, we'll buy the CA performance at all focal lengths. We really shot straight onto the sun's face to stress test the ghosting and flaring of the lens, so that's not exactly your real life situation. We saw slight flaring at 15 mm f/2.8 and 5.6, which got slightly worse at 8.0 and distracting at 11. 30 mm is worse, with flares getting bigger at all focal lengths. Note that most of the time, except in those niche situations when you want to shoot straight onto the sun, the ghosting won't be present. It's very difficult to bring good amount of bokeh in such a wide lens. Whenever you manage to bring some mainly towards the 30 mm side, they're nice and round. Only some manage to be creamy enough. To all who say ultra wides do not need vibration compensation, bullshit. It's because you have never discovered one probably. I won't say much, just look at the following pictures, both handheld, one without VC another one with VC on. Thank God I can finally leave my goddamn tripod home now. So that now judgment time whether you should get the 15 to 30 or the 14 to 24. It's more of a subjective decision really at the end of the day, because both of these lenses are phenomenal. If you must have that extra 1 mm 14 mm, no lenses on Nikon would give you that range apart from the 14 to 24 here. 114 degree compared to 110 degree, it does not sound that much, the 4 degree difference, but when you see the 4 degree difference at a distance, it's significantly more, and you can see how much you have to sacrifice while using the 15 to 30 here. You've also seen that the 15 mm on the Nikon actually gives you more field of view than 15 mm on the Tamron one. But where the Tamron has an edge is mainly the VC feature, vibration compensation feature. Now, as I told you at the start of this video, a lot of people argue that you do not need image stabilization feature on ultra wide lens, but then there are situations under low light where it's always good if you're, if you do not have to carry the tripod. There are a lot of places where, let's say you want to you're at a music concert and you want to shoot the crowd. That's one of the best examples that I can have, where you do not want to carry the tripod around it because it's like all chaos and everything, and still you need a wide enough lens to cover the crowd and still be able to cover the emotions of those subjects right in front of you. In those cases, the VC actually helps because there's low light there, not enough light, and this guy is wide enough. Again, at the telephoto end, also the Tamron one has an edge. You lose 1 mm compared to the 14-24, but you gain 6 mm here. So 14 to 24 is still into, that super wide category, even 24 mm. But here, you're getting into a wide category from a super wide category, ultra wide category rather. So 15 mm, you lose 1 mm here from 14 mm, but it goes to 30 mm. So you generally use 35 mm for, let's say, street photography and all. So 30 mm is not much, just maybe one step back or forth. And then you get that wide. So your distortion won't be as much as a 24 mm or as much as an ultra wide. So this guy, in terms of the distortion and in that way how you capture the scenario, I think this one is more of a walk around lens than the 14-24. This is an absolutely ultra wide to super wide lens, so you would need a lens that covers your typical street photography range. But this one kind of goes close to that. So if you're carrying this, the 15 to 30, then you can possibly carry a 50 mm and 84 mm and then a 70 to 200 mm. Or you can probably even skip the 84 mm if you have the 70 to 200. So that way you can have good ultra wide to wide lens here. So that's another advantage. This also, at times you've seen almost sharpness and some of the other performances, it's almost as much like as good as the 14-24. In some it's actually exceeded. So it's up to your personal decision. See, that 1 mm no one's gonna give you, but here at the tele end you're gonna get more. So you have to decide whether you already maybe have a 24 to 70 2.8. In that case, this one makes absolute sense because you're wasting that 6 mm here. If you did a VC, then this one. But I personally would prefer a lens like this, 15 to 30, which kind of a more walk around lens. I just feel that I will carry this lens in slightly more varied situation than the 14 to 24. But make no mistake, this is an absolutely jam of a lens. This just is slightly more cosmopolitan for me. If you like this video, please hit the like button, ask anything related to this lens, and we'll try to answer them all. And please subscribe to this channel and share this video to share the love. Thank you.